Good morning again. It's Ecology Matters. I'm Pat.
And I'm Jeanette.
And today we're in a different sort of environment than you've seen us in before. We're in a church. It's an abandoned church. It's no longer in use. It's in a bit of a state. And we're here to show you around and show you some of the issues that we face when we're doing this type of survey. Have a look and see what you make of our surroundings. I'm losing sight of Jeanette. She's climbing up the bell tower. These walkways that we have to travel up to get to height here are very narrow and confined. What we're looking for is any signs of bats or any other species that might be of significance to us here. There's the steps down. We've just climbed up there. It's very narrow. Always tempted to try and count the number of steps as we're coming up these places. Here we are. We've reached the top of part of the steps. Jeanette's just stood at the top here in a narrow, confined space, waiting for me to join her so we can go and investigate what might be in the next room up this bell tower. Signs of life, signs of past life. One of the things we do come across in places like this is lots of carcasses of different things, which can be really difficult to identify at times. This is the remains of a jackdaw, which are quite frequently found nesting in these old church buildings, abandoned buildings in particular, where they've got access points.
So we've come to the top of the spiral staircase. I'm not going to go any further. The floor looks a little bit dodgy. Another dead jackdaw over there. And there is another floor. And there is a ladder. Again, I'm not convinced that that's safe enough to go up, but what we will do is use the torch and just have a good look around and see if there's any signs of anything else.
So, various hatches. There always are hatches, and there's nearly always a tempting looking ladder leading up to them. In this case, we're not too sure about the safety aspects of that, so we'll have another look and see what we think. But it's kind of a classic part of the job, really, getting into these places. And in general, I have to say, the harder you look, the more you push, within safe reason of course, the more signs you find and the more confident you can be with the results of the survey. Just looking out the window, you can see some of the surrounds of the site here. We're in a park actually in Rossendale in the northwest of England. There's some rather grand buildings. This is a real industrial heritage sort of place. Later on we've got to go and have a look at some of the vegetation around the church and try and weigh up what's happening there. We'll get back to that shortly, but for now it's back up the tower to see what else we can find. When we're doing these jobs, we're always trying to find a useful viewpoint to be able to look out and see things, particularly on tall buildings like this church where you can't climb up onto the roof. It's not safe. It's way too high for any ladders. Sometimes we can fly a drone over if we're in a place that doesn't create any other issues, but today we're taking the advantage to look out of any windows that we possibly can out onto the roof to give us a view of its condition and any sort of issues that we need to deal with in relation to roosting bats, for example, access points for bats and things like that. So Jeanette's here doing some surveys of part of the bell tower in the church. You can see she's got quite a high powered torch. There's no light on here, there's no power on in the building. It's pretty dark. We're in a kind of quite a murky area, although there are some windows, as you can see, close to Jeanette here, letting in some natural light, some of which are broken. And underfoot, it's just a little bit dodgy. Let me just come down from where Jeanette is and show you what's going on the floor here. Some of the issues that we face when we're doing these type of surveys are working in places where there's quite a few potential hazards. Here we've got pigeons, lots of debris, the results of people breaking into the building, causing damage, and all kinds of things to trip over. One reason why steel-toed boots are such an important feature of our work, along with hard hats of course, and all the other PPE that we normally carry with us. One interesting thing about today's survey, that's two interesting things. One of them's a pigeon that's just flown into the room that I'm in, and another one is these holes in the roof. Now then, I probably want to know what these were at first, having not come across something like that before. And it's because something's missing from them. And the thing that's missing is just on the wall over here. It's where the ropes used to go through for the bells, because we're in the bell tower.
We've left the confined space of the tower, and now, as you can see, we're into this huge open space of the main church. Do we take a different approach when we're looking for the signs, or do we use the same techniques that we used in the tower? Well, from that huge open space, I've actually come into a corner of the church which is more dark and sheltered. The type of places we'd expect to find bats if they are here. And straight away, I've noticed there's some moth and butterfly wings on the floor. Good indication that perhaps bats have been here and are using it as a night roost. So here you can see some potential feeding signs from bats. We've got a couple of different things here. We've got a tortoiseshell butterfly wing and a wing from a yellow underwing moth.
One of the things we look for on these bat surveys is access points or potential access points for bats to get into buildings. I don't know if you can spot any here. They're a bit obvious in this photograph actually. Someone's put the windows through in this part of the church and they're gaping holes. And funnily enough, just inside this part of the church is where Jeanette pointed out the feeding signs a little bit earlier on. And right outside this broken window, these potential bat access points, a pretty good area of potential foraging habitat as well. No wonder we found some evidence in the building at this point. So Jeanette's just going to tell us about the key to a good bat survey. That's a terrible pun, I do apologise. Anyway, take it away, Jeanette.
Oh, it does work. Terrible, absolutely terrible. I think it's been here a bit too long.
It's a good job we're better at bat surveys than playing the piano, is all I can say.
We're still in the Sunday school and we've just come through the door which has been boarded up, and I've noticed there's a cavity here, which you don't often get to see when you're doing a bat survey. You can see the internal breeze block walls here, and then we've got the external stone wall on this side, and the cavity is a large area of space which is covered all the time. It's dark and it is perfect for bats. It's often where we expect to find bats, but often we don't get to look in this level of detail to see if there's any signs or any evidence of bats using it.
And interestingly enough, during a strip down of a building yesterday, we actually found a lot of bat signs in a cavity. So it is the kind of place where you could quite easily find signs accumulating, giving you some better information about what's happening with the bats and how they're using a building.
So this has been a building of contrasts. We've had small confined spaces to large open areas, damaged windows, roofs with holes in, and areas of dark sheltered spaces. We found evidence of bats in terms of drop-ins, and we found feeding signs. We've come outside and yes, there's another problem. Here it is. The place is covered in Himalayan balsam.
Does anyone know what the correct term is for a balsam forest? Balsam jungle maybe? Whatever it is, I'm in one right now. So, come to the end of another survey. And all there is left to say is goodbye from me.
And goodbye from me.
And we'll see you next time.